4. Make sure you work out the answer to one decimal place more than the question asks you. So if the question asks you to write it into one decimal place, you have to calculate until you get two decimal places. After that, you use the value to round off and then you will get one decimal place. So this is the example A. You have 68 divided by 7. When we calculate until we get two decimal places, the answer it will be 9.71. But the question asks you to round off into one decimal place. So from the 9.71, you round off into one decimal place. How do we round off? The rule will be the same like the previous one. So this is 7. Next to 7 is 1. That's why it means the 7 will stay as it is. So the answer, when you round off the final answer correct into one decimal place, for 68 divided by 7, it will be 9.7. Is there anyone having any question? Or my explanation is too confusing for you? Okay, maybe to make it easier, I will move to the next one. For the second work example, we have 2.35 divided by 4. Give your answer correct to two decimal place. So it means you have to calculate. When you calculate, you have to make sure you get three decimal places. After you get three decimal places, you use the result from these three decimal places, you round off into two decimal place. Follow the question. So for 0.587, you round off into correct to two decimal place. The second decimal place will be 8. Next to 8 is 7. So it means the 8 have to go up by 1. So the final answer it will be 0.59. That's why I told you, if the question asks you to give your answer correct to two decimal place, it doesn't mean you only calculate until you get two decimal place and it's finished. No, because like if you calculate until you get two decimal place, in this case you will only have as 0.58. But the final answer or the correct answer is 0.59. So make sure you have to read the question properly. When you already read the question properly, calculate the numbers properly and make sure you give more decimal places than the question asks you to find out. So later, if the question asks you to round off correct to three decimal places, you have to calculate until how many decimal places? Hello? If maybe there is a question, the question asks you to round off the answer correct to three decimal places. It means you have to calculate until how many decimal places? Is it one decimal places? Is it two? Is it three? Is it four? Or is it five? Yeah, it will be four decimal places. You have to give more than one decimal places. That is what does it mean by, where is my slide? Yeah. Make sure you work out the answer to one decimal place more than you are asked for. So if the question asks you into one decimal place, calculate until two decimal places. After calculate until two decimal places, the result you round off to get one decimal places. For the work example 2, you have to give your answer correct to two decimal places. It means you have to calculate until three decimal places. From the result which is having three decimal places, you round off to get two decimal places. Is it clear enough now? Or is it still confusing? For those who ask me if you are getting confused, is it clear enough now? Or is there anything confusing? Okay. Okay, if no one asks me anything through the chat box, let us move to exercise. Oh, which one? What is it that is confusing for you? Can you tell me? Can you tell me which part that is confusing? In here, you have to read the question properly. After you read the question properly, the steps, let me write the steps. read the question properly. So the first thing you have to do is read the question properly. Read the question properly. Read the question properly for the degree of accuracy. So like for example, if the question asks you to write it into one decimal place, calculate until two decimal places, and then the result you have to run off into one decimal place. This is the way how you find the, if the question asks you to write the answer correct into one decimal places, it means you have to calculate until two decimal place, and then the result that you calculate until two decimal places, you have to run off into one decimal place. Later, if there is three decimal place, it means calculate, we have to give it more, one bigger, one more than the question asks you for. So this is three decimal places, so it means we have to calculate until we get four decimal places. After we get four decimal places, then run off the result into three decimal place. Is it clear enough, or is it still confusing? If it is confusing, can you tell me which part that is confusing for you? Is it clear enough? You have to give it one bigger. So like this is 1. If it is 1, yeah, you have to calculate until 2. If the question asks you 3, you have to calculate until 4, and then you run off into as the question asks you to find out. Okay. Anyone else having any question? Anyone else? No? Okay. If you have no question, I will move to the exercise 3.4 on your textbook. You have some question. You want me to directly discuss it, or yes, I'm talking. Is my voice not audible? Is my voice not audible?
It's audible, teacher.
So for the question A, 89 divided by 3, the 8 divided by 3, it will be equals to 2. 2 times 3, it will be equals to 6. And then 8 minus 6, it will be 2. So now we have 29 divided by 3, it will be equals to 9. 9 times 3, it will be 27. So now we have 2. 2 cannot be divided by 3, so we put another 0. We put another 0, we have 20. 20 divided by 3, it will be equals to 6. Not enough space, I copy the 20. And then 6 times 3, it will be equals to 8. So we subtract again, we get 2. Because the question asks you to run off correct to one decimal place, it doesn't mean when you already have one decimal place, you already have the answer. No, not yet. You haven't gotten the answer yet. You have to calculate until two decimal place. That's why now I have to put another 0. 20 divided by 3, it will be equals to 6. Now it is already two decimal place. From these two decimal place, we have to run off the numbers into one decimal place. So the correct answer for the question A, it will be 29.7. Is it clear enough for those who have a different answer with me? Is it clear enough, or is there anything that is confusing? We need to discuss it more or anything? Please let me know. Which one? Why 7? Oh, why 7? Okay then. Do you have any, or did you disagree if I get 29.66? Is there anyone who disagree if I get 29.66? Yeah. Is there anyone who disagree? Who disagree if I get 29.66? Disagree? So the first thing that you always have to do is doing a calculation. Doing a normal calculation, after you do a normal calculation, you have to make sure you calculate until you get two decimal place. After you get two decimal place, the result you have to run off into one decimal place. So the result, when I do a calculation, normal calculation, I get 29.66. From the 29.66, I have to round off into one decimal place. So the first decimal place is 6. Next to 6 is 6. So it means the 6 have to go up by 1. Become 29.7. Is there anyone who get confused still? If you get confused, can you tell me which part that is confusing for you? Can you tell me which part that is confusing for you? Which steps? I told you, right, the steps before. All the things that you have to do is doing a normal calculation. Doing a normal calculation. 89 divided by 3. Do you still get confused to divide 89 divided by 3? Yes, be back soon, Putri. Do you get confused how to divide 89 divided by 3? No? So if I have the answer as 29.66, do you have any confusion? I told you right before, you have to calculate one decimal place more than the question asks you for. The question asks you to round off into one decimal place. So it means one decimal place more than one, it will be two decimal place. It means you have to calculate until two decimal places. After you calculate until two decimal places, you have to round off the answer that you get from the calculation, round it off into one decimal place. Is it still not clear enough? Or if it is not clear enough, can you tell me which one that is confusing for you? You have to calculate until you get a two decimal place. And then from the two decimal place answer, round it off into one decimal place as the final answer. That is the steps that you have to do. Clear? Or is it still confusing? Now, if you have no confusion anymore, let us move to the question B. For the question B, 92 divided by 7, it is equals to how many? Yes, it will be equals to 13.1. Thank you. This my pen. Yeah, 13.1. For the question C, 56 divided by 6, it will be equals to how many? Question C, 56 divided by 6, it will be equals to 9.3, correct? Now for the question D, we have 65 divided by 8. It will be equals to how many? 65 divided by 8. Yes, it will be equals to 8.1. Thank you. Move to the question E. We have 879 divided by 7. It will be equals to how many? Yes, correct. It will be 125.6. Thank you. The question F. 592 divided by 3. It will be equals to how many? 500. Yes, it will be 197.3. Thank you for those who helped me through the chat box. For the question G, 145 divided by 9 is equals to how many? 145 divided by 9. Have you find it? The answer, no, I disagree with, it's not 52.3, too much. 52.3 is too much. Yeah, the correct answer is 16.1. Thank you for those who already helped me through the chat box. Question H, the last one. 275 divided by 3. How many it will be? Yes, 91.7. Correct. Thank you. Okay, I think that's all for today's class. We are going to continue the class tomorrow at home. Please kindly try to finish the question 2 and 3. So tomorrow we can directly discuss it together, okay? I think that's all for today's class. Good afternoon and thank you, students. If you still have any questions,
Afternoon and thank you, teacher.
this is